This is all 100% true. This has haunted me for years, and I've lost hours of sleep over this. 6 or 7 years ago, I had a cat whom I was very close to, but one night when me, my friend, and my twin brother were having a sleepover, my cat ended up getting out. This wouldn't be a big issue, but my family owns 200 acres of woodland, and it used to be Creek Native American land. So we all went out to look for the cat, but something was different about this particular night. It was very quiet to begin with. My 3 dogs were quiet also, but on guard. We all ignored it and kept looking for the cat. Not even the crickets were chirping. As we moved to the barn, all of my dogs started going crazy, snarling, barking, and growling. We were terrified, but we naively kept searching out of hope. As we searched the barn, the stench of death and skunk began to fill the air. A turkey vulture perched and flapped its wings. It startled all of us. My Great Dane and 2 pit bulls started going wild. As the vulture swooped right over my head, something grabbed it out of the sky. Now, we all had flashlights. I had a headband light in particular. We could see clearly when the vulture got mauled by this massive black-haired creature right in front of us. It looked up at me while having the guts of the vulture dripping from its jaws. Its eyes reflected the light from its eyes. That's not what scared me the most. It had the face of a man and hair all over its body. I stood frozen in fear and shock. In this moment, I pissed and crapped myself as I stared into its eyes. My friend yelled at me and she grabbed me as we ran and jumped the gate to the barn. My brother was behind us and was unable to jump the gate. As I looked back, I saw my brother finally get the gate open, as he was almost had by whatever this thing was. His unathletic nature was almost his death sentence. As we all ran into the house, we all confirmed what we saw. The next morning, we went back to find bloody footprints. But the one thing that disturbed us the most were the bird's body parts strung in the trees. That gave me nightmares. I've continued to see this thing several times, and I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I know what I saw, smelt, and felt. I'm not crazy. This happened to my sister and I when I was 7 or 8. My sister is 2 years younger than me. Now, we live in Australia, so basements aren't a thing, but sometimes really old houses might have a wine cellar. The house we lived in was built in the 1940s, maybe even earlier. It was an old brick house with a strange layout. The rooms just felt off to me, like the flow of the house felt wrong, and even the rooms felt like they were in the wrong spots. We had a wine cellar underneath the house, which we accessed to the backyard. One section was open. The west side had a wall, which was built with the bricks with holes in them, so light would filter through during the daytime. The rest of the cellar was like a big underground room, with rooms you could stand up in and walk further into the adjoining room on the cellar, which led to a smaller opening into the brick wall which an adult could crawl through. Once in here, it led to each individual room under the house. This was so any electrical problems could be fixed. Also, the inside floors were heated, which was great in the winter. Yes, it does get cold in Australia in the winter. This house was always cold and made me feel uncomfortable and scared as soon as the sun went down. My sister and I have experienced a few things in this house, as well as my dad. However, this particular incident was absolutely terrifying. My sister and I were playing in our cellar with our dog. We looked up and in the darker area of the cellar stood a figure. It was a male and he was looking at us, not saying anything. Now, I can't speak for my sister, but I had the most overwhelming sense of fear and absolute dread fill my body. My chest was tight and I was frozen with fear. We knew what we were looking at was evil and not human. The figure looked at us. He started to walk further into the darkness in the cellar, then turned back to look at us again. He moved his head as if he was trying to beckon us to follow him. He gave us a terrifying grin as he looked at us. I was so afraid. We knew it was evil. We could feel the heaviness of its presence in the cellar. I'm not sure how long we stood there for. I just wanted it to be over. Then my little sister grabbed me and we ran out of there and up the footpath back into our house, screaming and crying to Mom and Dad, telling them what had happened. I remember Dad running out there to look around, but he found nothing. I still have nightmares about that house like I'm trapped. It was one of the most terrifying things I've ever experienced. In light of all the UFO sightings that's been taking place lately in my home state of Florida, I thought I'd share a very interesting experience I had a few years ago back in 2018. I came home from California to visit my family since I had been away for about a year. My grandparents were nice enough to take me in for my stay. At this time, I liked going out for walks early in the morning. I got up, got dressed, and headed outside. It was about 5 a.m. As I start making my way down the street I always take to get to my destination, I see something very strange in the distance, in the sky. I thought it was a helicopter or an airplane at first, but then it started doing things that neither airplanes or helicopters do. It began drawing. Yes, you heard me right. It began drawing a symbol in the sky with something that looked like red gas. I looked around me to see if anyone else was outside witnessing this, but no one. It continued drawing this symbol, and I was so dumbfounded by what I was so clearly witnessing right in front of my face that I hadn't even thought to take out my phone and record the dang thing. I realized I should record it, looked down to reach into my pocket for my phone, and when I turned the camera on, the drawing had just stopped. I was very agitated by this, but decided to take a few snapshots of the image itself. The red gas began to fade away into gray smoke, and the image I made out, I remember looking like some creature, like a dragon or something. I was so taken aback by the whole thing that I didn't even really want to just continue my regular walk like nothing had happened. I went for my walk anyway, hoping that I would see someone further down that had also seen it so that we could talk about it. But I saw no one for the entire walk who I could vent to, like it was for my eyes only. I had an idea to wait for the news to come on so that I could see if there were any reports on it. Someone had to have seen it, right? I told my grandparents about it and watched every single time the news came on that day, and not one time did they ever mention anything about a spacecraft drawing a red symbol in the sky. Of course not, right? This honestly started making me question reality itself. It made me feel like certain authorities were in on it, but were not allowed to be. I was already a conspiracy theorist, not necessarily even by choice, so this just confirmed suspicions that I already had anyway. The very next day, I went on another walk and things got even stranger. I decided to turn left this time to go to this spot I like to go to talk on the phone or just think. As I turned, I noticed something lying on the ground in the distance. I slowly began approaching the thing on the ground. As I got closer, I almost vomited from what I saw. It was something that looked like 2 organs just lying on the ground. I gasped and took out my phone to record it. I then turned around to walk away and noticed that in the ditch right next to me was something that looked like a deer head, its legs, and the rest of its organs. I could not wrap my head around what I was witnessing, and a sick, dark feeling began to sweep through me. I immediately got the heck out of there, finished my walk, and went back home to let my grandparents know yet again about another bizarre thing I had just witnessed in their neighborhood. Other bizarre things kept happening after that as well that I still can't wrap my head around. I've come up with some theories for what I believe happened, but I'm not sure if anyone is ready to hear them. But I am curious as to what you guys think the spacecraft thing was in the sky, and even the slaughtered deer that I found on my walk. And are they connected? Maybe we'll never know.